pushy broad from the Bronx, New York. Follow her voice, a straight dog is nice. She's a pushy broad from the Bronx, oh yeah. Don't be surprised if you wanna listen twice. Make decisions, find the right choice. Know yourself better, find your own voice. It's okay if you need help today, cause everybody needs a little push. From the pushy broad from the Bronx, New York.
Welcome, Transformation Talk Network listeners. My name is Ellen Stewart, and I am the pushy broad from the Bronx. Welcome to my show, Recovery Recharged, where we share advice and support from experts in addiction and recovery. I am so excited to have this guest today. First of all, she is a member of this wonderful network, the Transformation Network. She's come on board relatively soon, right? The past couple of months. She has her own show, which is called Intuition Unleashed, a Revolution in Personal Liberation, which is a wonderful mouthful to say so early this morning. She is a person who is after my own heart and a true pushy broad for sure. Her name is Becc Nelson. She's a licensed marriage and family therapist. She's a best-selling author. She's a spiritual mentor with over 30 years of experience helping individuals break free from self-sabotaging patterns and step into their highest potential. She has written a book that you will not be able to put down. And we're going to talk about today, in addition to her personal recovery story and some wonderful insights as to how to reframe your thinking and regain your life. The pushy broad from the Bronx welcomes my friend and colleague, Becc Nelson. Good morning, Becc. How are you?
Oh, hello. I'm great. I'm so happy to be here. Yeah, we are from the same cloth, aren't we?
Yes, we are. And it's so wonderful to interview another pushy broad. So,
Pushy broad from New England. That's what
yes. Okay. All right. That's great. Very good. East Coast ladies this morning.
Mhm.
All right. So we know a little bit about you, and we know that you have written a book called Cut the Reframe Your Thinking, Regain Your Life. It's on Amazon, correct?
It is.
All right. So tell me what the inspiration was for you writing this book, and what do you hope readers will take away from it?
Honestly, this book is my life's work, all in 125 pages. I kept telling my clients for years, I have a book in my head that I'm writing, and they're like, oh, yeah, we know the book in your head. But really, it was brewing for quite a while. And I think that anybody who's written a book or is thinking one, there's something that's brewing, and I encourage you to just sit and start writing it because it's there. So it was all my life's work that I put out in a couple of pages, and you really just need to sit down and get it going.
So when you talk about your life work, give us an idea of what personal experiences you brought to this book.
Well, up until I actually published this book, I am an ACOA, or an ACOA, so an adult child of an alcoholic. Grew up in a very violent alcoholic home, a very alcoholic family. So, your show is all about recovery and recharge and all the pieces. So you know that the rules of an alcoholic home are don't talk, don't feel, all those things. You don't exist. You don't have a voice. So I spent the better part of my adult life trying to unlearn those things and learning how those really contained me and impacted my life, and then how to teach others the same thing.
You know, so many times on my show with all the experts that come on like yourself, we talk about the fact that one of the reasons why I did this show is because there are no more secrets, right? Get the secrets out, expose everything, understand that the disease thrives in isolation and in silence. So this book certainly uncovers something and gives you a chance to really truly see your voice, which is marvelous. And I love the way you convey things. you talk about identifying behaviors that leave us exhausted and drained. Could you give us an example of those behaviors and what's often overlooked?
I'm going to say the number one thing that we do, and then everything else sort of falls under that, which is giving your power away, which is asking other people to change what they're doing so that you can find your happiness again. And that's exhausting because it never works. You can't make other people change. So you are constantly going to be chasing your happiness.
You're absolutely right. And of course, you can change. We always talk about the fact that you can change another human being. The only person you can change is yourself. And that begins with awareness, which you really begin to develop in your book, your own personal awareness. So give us some practicalities. How do you encourage readers to gain control over some of these unhealthy interactions?
The first thing that you need to do is understand that you're doing it. It's the first rule of everything, right? In recovery and everything. First, you have to admit that you're doing it. That's not an easy one to do because by the time we get to this point, we've had a lifetime of what are our faults and we're dragging them out. And that's exhausting. Nobody wants to keep doing that. So first, ask yourself, are you really ready to uncover this and admit this to yourself? There's got to be a willingness to want to change that.
So growing up, ACOA, adult child of alcoholic parents, was it both parents or one of those? What did it look like for you? And were there siblings?
Interesting that you asked that. The research usually shows that there's two types of alcoholic homes. One in which everyone does, rallies around the alcoholic and tries to tiptoe around them so that they won't blow up and everybody is happy, right? Happy. But really the alcoholic doesn't lose his crap. And that's the first type. The second type is a home where nobody pays attention to the alcoholic and they have no power whatsoever. And they kind of go into the shadows and everybody's like, oh, go have another drink, buddy. We had the first type where everybody in the house, my mother and my brother, my younger brother and I rallied around him and tiptoed around him. So we spent the whole time just making sure that he didn't blow up. And of course, it's so chaotic. You never knew what was going to make him blow up.
That is such a common thing in families. We talk about this all the time. You walk on eggshells around the person that's going to explode. You never know when that is. You never know what you're going to have to handle. And in many cases, you never know when you're going to have to pick up the phone and call the police.
Oh, we would have never done that in our house because that would have just made it 10 times worse. Mm-mm.
Was your father an angry and violent individual when he was under the influence?
Yes, major. And you didn't know when it was going to happen. Mm-hmm.
And of course, as we grow up, and if we're in that situation, then I'm sure that you also address this in your book, how you feel about being ashamed and feeling guilty and really trying to navigate what's going on. So how did it turn around for you? How did you begin to come out of this?
When you're in the middle of it and you're a kid, you just think that every house is like this. You don't realize that all those things that you just mentioned are not normal. So as I became older, got into college, and now I'm studying human development, etc., you start to see that not every family operates like this. And the things that you're thinking and feeling are not normal.
So you talk very much, like you said, about awareness being the first step, but the book is also not only about the trials and tribulations, but about your coming forward and really transforming, which is what this network is all about and what my show is all about. So let's talk about trying to recharge your energy and try to really change things for you. And you talk about raising vibrations. What does that mean to you? And what does that mean for us?
Well, this is actually a question about science, right? So anything produces, vibrates in, emanates in a frequency because we're all made up of energy. So if we have a lower energy, and you can just feel that when you have a lower energy, when you're like, ugh, and you can just see that on somebody, so energetically, you are not making yourself available to your higher self, the part of you that connects with spirit, the God of your understanding, your higher self. And there are things out there in the universe that you're not a match for which are the things that are actually in your highest and best good when your vibrations are lower. So that's when you are exhausted, as I say, you're not able to make yourself a match for what's in your highest good.
So how do you realize that, and how do you help readers raise their vibrations?
Well, when you said before, when people realize that they're exhausted, that's the first thing. And I would do a scan of your body when you're about to go to bed, scan your body and say, really, how do I feel? And for me, I can always tell where that energy is sitting. That stuckness is usually here in my chest, in my heart, or in my throat. I just feel this. I'm not able to speak my truth. I'm not allowing love in, really.
That's an interesting concept, not allowing love in. So what you're saying to us is that not only do you have the awareness, what am I feeling, what's happening, but you're saying that we translate this into a physical feeling in a particular part of our body.
A couple of things that I don't talk about in this book. Emotions are energy in motion. They are meant to be noticed and move through you. When they are stuck, when you're not allowing them to pass, when you're holding on to emotions, particularly negative emotions, you will literally feel a physical manifestation in that. Like I said, in your throat, your stomach, your chest, etc. Yes, you will feel them.
And it's really important for us not to ignore those feelings, correct?
They are supposed to be in motion. Yes, they will start to cause physical harm to your body.
And that's the thing we watch for. How many people say, and I've seen so many people say, oh, it was just a little thing. My stomach was a little achy, or, I had a little pain in my chest or whatever, but it's stress and I'm just not going to ignore it. And then it turns into something that is way out of proportion, correct?
It gets louder. It definitely gets louder.
All right.
And I think that what people don't realize is that when you don't let those, when you're trying to shut off your emotions because it's just too tough to feel, that you're shutting off all emotions, not just the bad ones. You're not allowing love to fully come in. You can't just decide which emotions to turn on and turn off.
Now, that's a very interesting concept. When we're in active addiction, we talk about the fact that we numb our feelings, right? We escape into active addiction of some kind, drinking, drugging, eating, whatever, to turn off all feelings. But we don't realize, like you just said, that we are turning off positive feelings as well, not only the negative ones. All right. So from a personal point of view, you get in touch with your feelings in the evening. What else helps you dramatically change your life for the better? What else can you give us?
So I have a lot of journaling prompts in this book because it really does require you to apply these to your own life. For me personally, I had to start with, can I reframe this? Instead of saying, why do these bad things keep happening to me? Because when you put that out there, then life keeps showing you why they keep coming back to you. So instead, turn it around to what is the opportunity that I have here in this lesson for growth? And when you see that from that perspective, then you start to change how it impacts you.
I see. All right. So it's all about reframing, which is something that I do as well. I understand it's if you give yourself negative prompts, then negative prompts will come back. Positive energy attracts positive energy all the time. You also talk about reframing your thinking, and you talk about the fact that it's a little bit different maybe from other self-help methodologies. Explain.
I think the biggest piece, now all of them are they have their own spin on reframing. For me personally, like I said, the biggest piece is not just to reframe it as, oh, maybe I misheard that, or, that sort of thing. That's kind of the basis of reframing. First of all, there's a willingness in there. You have to want to see it from a different perspective. All right. That's probably the same as all the other ones. The part that's a little bit different is to see it as an opportunity. Why do these things keep happening? Why do I keep attracting this type of energy to me? And where are the patterns that repeat? So the different part is seeing things as an opportunity, not why is this happening to me, but what's my opportunity for growth?
I see. Look more outside, externally. What happens with my clients is I kind of do sometimes the same thing, but I like to do a lot of visualization. So I ask them to picture sitting at a big dining room table and constantly moving from one seat to the other. Every single time you move into a different seat, you're seeing that dining room and that table from a different perspective, without the emotions attached. Or sometimes I talk to clients about getting yourself out of the play and putting yourself in the audience. What do you see that character doing? And out of that realm of emotions. I grew up learning 12-step recovery. So for me, it was feelings aren't facts and feelings can be changed. Not that feelings aren't important, but feelings are transient, which means we're capable of changing our feelings with different actions. Do you think that's the case for you?
Go back to their energy and motion. Notice them, work through them, and then I like the visualization piece. Move them through.
Very good. Well, you've chosen a very bold title for your book. Do you find that the bold and direct approach is what you utilize in your own coaching? And do you find this is effective?
You know what, Ellen? I had to start with myself. So this title is just as much for me as it is for everyone else. And I find, when people say, who's your ideal client? I think the answer for most people is I'm my ideal client and I needed a kick in the butt. So that's the way that I approach things. And it's very assertive. I wouldn't say aggressive, but it's very assertive. And the people that I work with appreciate that approach. They want the kick in the butt. They don't want somebody to sugarcoat it and say, and how are you feeling about that?
That's wonderful. I think it's a really good read. It is Becc Nelson. She has her website on the screen here so that you can see it. The book is on Amazon. It's called Cut the You Know What. Okay. Go and find it under the author's name on Amazon. It's a really, really, really good read. So tell us, what kind of feedback have you received from readers applying these principles in their lives?
You know what? I had lunch with another therapist friend a few weeks ago, and she was telling me that she was getting a divorce essentially. But she said to me, I really wanted to get divorced a couple of years ago, but then I read your book and it took me back a little bit. I had to reevaluate. And that is exactly the feedback that I would like to hear. It's this people taking responsibility for what they're doing and saying, is there something that I could change? Not because I'm hoping the other person will change, but because I want to see if I can have some growth, raise my own vibration in myself. And that's exactly what I'm hoping to put out there.
I think the biggest miracle that people find is when they initially come, like they come to me or you to ask help for another person, and then they realize that their own awareness needs help and they are the people that have to change, especially the parents that I work with. When they understand that they must make changes and then the world changes around them, if you change, the world changes around you. Are you finding that as well from clients reading the book?
Absolutely. You have no choice. Other people have no choice but to react differently because you're acting differently. And one of the, when you go back to what is something that people can do, some of the prompts in this book that are probably the most important is what do you think will change? What do you fear might change if you make these changes?
That's really something that you said. What do you fear might change, right? No, people don't understand that change is everywhere. Change is the time of day, the seasons, everything. So what do you think people are so afraid of when it comes to change?
Change itself. They don't know. It's not that they don't know exactly what's going to be different, but what's happening now is familiar and comfortable. Even if they know it's not working, I don't know what this other piece might look like. So some fears might be, what if my son gets better and he doesn't need me anymore? Or my husband gets better and leaves me? What if my husband gets better and he finds another woman, et cetera, et cetera?
Yes, all of those things. And they're very, very real. All right. And it also stems from personal insecurities, which is what you absolutely address in the book, which is why people understand that the self-help, self-development is the first step in finding joy. And speaking of finding joy, you talk a lot about that in the book. So talk to us about how you feel about joy and maybe what some of the common misconceptions people have about it that you address in the book.
About finding joy in particular. I feel like joy is one of the highest expressions of love. Joy is when you allow yourself to let some of that love in, and people are blocking it and don't realize that they're blocking it.
I see. Okay. So what would you suggest to somebody? How do you bring that out when you coach?
The first thing I do is say, you've been looking for love and validation out here outside of yourself. And then there's always that moment where I say, do you love you? Because if you don't love you, how can you expect anybody else to? And that's really when you start to see that growth, when people get that face and they start to cry. The problem is people don't love themselves, and they're giving other people the power to decide whether they're lovable or not. You need to start here.
Right, exactly. So, would you mind talking to us a little bit more about your personal story and a couple of things in the book that you felt were pivotal in life-changing situations for you?
Oh, my poor husband, when I was going through graduate school to get my license, it's kind of like when you become a doctor, everything that you read about, I'm like, do I do this? Do I do this? So I'm reading all these patterns and things, in graduate school, and I'm realizing all the things that I brought with me from my dysfunctional home growing up. And I did not want to repeat those in my own marriage. So I probably drive my husband crazy. I do it now every day. So I was realizing that I was doing the very things that I actually was seeing in my clients, the very patterns. I was expecting my husband, for example, to give me the love that I never got, the validation that I never got. And that puts a lot on somebody. He's kind of like, he could never match up because I didn't love me enough to want it. And I kept demanding to get it from him. And I didn't realize I was doing that.
Of course, and that leaves everybody rather unfulfilled and a miscommunication between you. So how have you progressed now? Let's just talk a little bit about where you are now and what you're doing and where people can find you.
Oh, well, thank you. So I tell people I had a hand analysis session once.
What
And
is that? Tell us what that
it's
is.
kind of like palm reading, but you don't call it palm reading because it sounds offensive. It sounds like, a gypsy at a fair. And so they read the lines in your hands and they find your patterns, etc. And apparently I have what they call gift marking, which is called the Persephone headline. Persephone is a Greek a creature, a Greek goddess, I guess, who was taken down into the underworld and kidnapped by Hades. And so she learned over time how to make the best out of her situation because she knew she wasn't going to escape. So she said, when you have that gift marking, it means that's what's happened to you in your life. And then you've learned how to successfully move past that and find happiness in your life despite your circumstances. And then you've also been able to teach others how to do that. I think when that happened, I was like, ding, that's where I started to come up with, what do you have to do to change your circumstances because maybe they're not happening to you. Maybe things are happening for you.
Okay. And let us know before we end here your show and when it airs.
My show, thank you for reminding me, Intuition Unleashed, airs on the first and third Thursdays of the month at 5 p.m. Eastern time. And then my website, becknelson.com, has my page all about my signature Beckology program. Thank you for asking.
And the next time you come on, we'll talk a little bit more about that. So Becc Nelson, cut the you-know-what on Amazon. Go to Becc, B-E-C-C, Nelson, N-E-L-S-O-N. Go listen to her podcast on the Transformation Network. We're also streaming on the Transformation Network. Intuition Unleashed, a revolution in personal liberation on the first and third Thursdays, right? Yes. 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. This is Ellen Stewart, the Pushy Broad from the Bronx. Thank you so much for listening today, and we'll see you next time. This is Ellen Stewart, the Pushy Broad from the Bronx, saying thanks for listening, and remember,
everybody needs a little push.
From the pushy broad from the Bronx, New